In continuation of the last video on thermochemistry of BSc Part 2 Paper 3, the first topic we will take up here is Kirchhoff's equation, which deals with the effect of temperature on enthalpy. It is found that the heat evolved or absorbed in a reaction depends upon the temperature at which the reaction is carried out. The exact relationship showing the variation of the heat of reaction with temperature was given by Kirchhoff in 1858 and hence it is known as Kirchhoff's equation. This can be studied in two ways. Let's take up case 1. When the reaction is carried out at constant pressure, there is an equation in which the reactants A gets converted to products B. Now suppose HA is the total heat content of the reactants and HB is the total heat content of the products, then the enthalpy change accompanying the reaction is given by delta H is equal to HB minus HA. Now differentiating this equation with respect to T at constant pressure, the equation becomes del delta H upon del T at constant pressure P is equal to del HB upon del T at constant pressure P minus del HA upon del T at constant pressure P. We know that according to the equation term del H upon del T at constant pressure, the term is equal to Cp. Now the equation terms, that is del HA upon del T constant pressure P and del Hb upon del T at constant pressure P, they are equal to the heat capacity of the reactants and heat capacity of the products respectively. Putting their value in equation 2, the equation becomes del delta H upon delta T at constant pressure is equal to heat capacity of the products minus heat capacity of the reactants, which is equal to delta Cp. Thus, del delta H upon delta T at constant pressure becomes equal to delta Cp, where delta Cp is the difference of heat capacities of the products and the reactants. Now equation 3 is known as Kirchhoff's equation. This equation is only for a small temperature difference, that is dT, and for large temperature difference, suppose the value of delta H at T1 is equal to delta H1 and delta H at T2 is equal to delta H2, and we know the value of T2 is greater than T1. Integration of the equation 3 between these limits, we get integrating between the limits delta H1 to delta H2 del delta H is equal to integrating between the limits T1 to T2 delta Cp dt. Now this dt here has been brought from the left hand side to the right hand side of the equation from the equation 3, or this equation becomes delta H2 minus delta H1 is equal to Cp T2 minus T1. Now bringing this term T2 minus T1 to the left hand side, the equation becomes delta H2 minus delta H1 upon T2 minus T1 is equal to delta Cp. This is another form of Kirchhoff's equation and is expressed in words as the change in the heat of reaction at constant pressure for every change of temperature is equal to the change in the heat capacity of the system at constant pressure which accompanies the reaction. Now we come to the case 2, when the reaction is carried out at constant volume. It is known that delta H is equal to delta E plus P delta V. Under conditions of constant volume, the expression A becomes delta H is equal to delta E because P delta V becomes equal to 0. Now substituting the value of delta H from this equation B in equation 6, the equation 6 becomes delta E2 minus delta E1 upon T2 minus T1 is equal to delta Cv, where delta Cv is the difference in the heat capacities of the products and the reactants, keeping the volume constant. Now if in the equation 6 and 7 the term T2 minus T1 is brought on the right hand side, then the equation 6 and 7 takes the form delta H2 minus delta H1 is equal to delta Cp T2 minus T1 and delta E2 minus delta E1 is equal to delta Cv T2 minus T1. Here it is assumed that for the range of the temperature between T1 to T2, the value of Cp and Cv remains almost constant, and if the value of delta H or delta E is known for any one temperature, then the value of delta H and delta E can be known by using the expression 6a and 7a respectively, and these two equations are also known as forms of Kirchhoff's equation. Now we come to the heat of reactions. as there are s number of equations as there are reactions. So, depending upon the characteristics of the reaction, heat of reaction can be classified in different forms. So, there are various types of enthalpy changes which are given as, if we consider enthalpy of heat of formation, combustion, neutralization, vaporization, hydration, dilution, solution, transition, ionization, etc., etc. The next topic we take up is Hess law of constant heat summation. The total amount of heat absorbed or evolved in a reaction is the same whether the reaction takes place in one step or many steps. Or we can state that the total amount of heat change in a reaction depends only upon the initial and the final state and is independent of the path or the manner in which the change is brought about. If we consider, for example, formation of carbon dioxide in two ways. In first way, we consider the carbon dioxide formation in one step. So, in the one step, the carbon reacts with one molecule of oxygen giving rise to CO2, and here the heat change is minus 393.5 kilojoules. In the second method, the reaction takes place in two steps. In the first step, the carbon reacts with half molecule of oxygen giving rise to CO, and here the heat change is minus 110.5 kilojoules. And in the second consecutive step, the CO formed in the first step reacts with another half molecule of oxygen giving rise to CO2, and now the heat change is minus 283.0 kilojoules. So, the total heat evolved in two steps is equal to delta H1 plus delta H2, which becomes equal to minus 393.5 kilojoules. So, we see that when the reaction is carried out in one step, the total heat change is minus 393.5, and also when the same reaction is carried out in two steps, even then the total heat change is identical, minus 393.5 kilojoules. This is the proof of Hess law of constant heat of summation. Now we come to first type of enthalpy of reaction. So, first is enthalpy of formation of heat of formation. Enthalpy change accompanying the formation of one mole of compound from its constituent elements is called enthalpy of the formation, denoted by delta H. Now, standard enthalpy of formation. It is seen that the enthalpy change accompanying the formation of one mole of compound in the standard state from its elements also in the standard state is called standard enthalpy of formation, and it is denoted by writing 0 superscript and F subscript with delta H. For example, carbon reacts with oxygen to form CO2, and the standard heat of formation comes out to be minus 393.5 kilojoules. In the second equation, hydrogen reacts with oxygen to give rise to water in the liquid form, and here the delta heat standard heat of formation comes to be minus 571.6 divided by 2. Since two moles are produced, so the total heat change of this reaction will have to be divided by 2 to get the value per mole. Now we come to the importance of standard enthalpy of formation. Knowing the standard enthalpies of formation of different reactants and products, and applying the convention that the standard enthalpies of elements in their most stable state are taken as 0, the enthalpy of the reaction can be calculated by the reaction. Standard enthalpy of reaction is equal to the summation of the standard enthalpy of formation of the products minus the summation of the standard enthalpy of formation of the reactants. This can be categorized in two types. First is exothermic compounds, those compounds which are formed by the evolution of heat and the enthalpy of formation of negative. Second is endothermic compounds, those compounds which are formed by the absorption of heat and their enthalpy of formation is positive. Now we come to the next type of enthalpy, that is enthalpy of solution. Whenever any substance is dissolved in a solvent to form its solution, then either evolution or absorption of heat takes place. The amount of the energy change depends on the quantity of the both, that is salt and the solute and the solvent. Now we come to the types of heat of solution. First is integrated enthalpy of solution. when 1 mole of substance is dissolved in excess but a definite amount of solvent, then the total enthalpy change is called integral enthalpy of solution. And this has another aspect, that is heat of dilution. When the solution is diluted, then there is an increase in the value of integral enthalpy of solution, and at every dilution the energy change takes place till infinite dilution is attained, or we can say in other words, when solution of one concentration is diluted to another concentration, then the change in enthalpy or heat is called as heat of dilution. The next is heat of solution. Now this heat of solution is the total energy enthalpy change when 1 mole of a substance is dissolved in excess of solvent and further dilution does not result in any further heat energy change, then it is known as heat of solution, and the solution prepared in such a manner is of infinite dilution. The next type of heat we come to is heat of hydration. The heat energy released when new bonds are made between the ions and the water molecules, then hydrated ions are formed, and the energy is heat of hydration. When 1 mole of anhydrous salt is added in a fixed amount of water, then salt in its maximum hydration is formed, and the amount of heat absorbed or evolved is called as the heat of hydration. For example, copper sulfate compound, the total anhydrous copper sulfate compound, reacts with 5 molecules of water to give rise to copper sulfate pentahydrate, and here the heat changes is equal to minus 78 kilojoules. But it is seen that the total heat of hydration cannot be measured directly, and it is indirectly computed by the heats of solution. Now supposingly we need to know the heat of hydration of copper sulfate pentahydrate, so this will be done by the following steps. So this is our requirement. We have to find out the total heat of hydration of formation of copper sulfate pentahydrate. So in this, the first step we take is we take anhydrous copper sulfate and add excess of water to it. So the result is copper sulfate solution, and the heat of solution is equal to minus 66.48 kilojoules. In the second reaction, we take copper sulfate anhydrous and add 5 molecules of water to it and plus excess of water, so we get copper sulfate solution, and here the heat of solution is plus 11.72 kilojoules. Now this is the third equation, which is a desired equation, and we want to know what is the magnitude of this x. Now on adding equation second and third, we get copper sulfate anhydrous plus 5H2O plus aqueous is equal to copper sulfate aqueous. Here the delta H will be x plus 11.72, as we are adding these two equations. So the summation of these two equations will be this equation 4, and the total heat of and the heat of summation of these two will be x plus 11.72. Or this equation can be written as copper sulfate solid plus, and this is anhydrous solid, plus excess of water, because 5H2O and aqua, this both can be written as only excess of water. This gives rise to copper sulfate solution, and here the delta H is, as we have seen, x plus 11.72. Now equating first and fourth, x plus 11.72 is equal to minus 66.48, or x is equal to minus 66.48 minus 11.72, and the total comes to be minus 78.2 kilojoules. Therefore, the value of hydration of anhydrous copper sulfate to attain the state of copper sulfate pentahydrate comes to be minus 78.2 kilojoules. Thank you. That's all for today.